Hello lads, lassies, and those of unspecified gender. It's the Irishman here, and today I'm going to be talking about what would have happened if Goku married everybody. Now, this is more so just a title to keep in line with a few other what-ifs I've made. Goku is not going to be marrying every single woman in the Dragon Ball universe in a traditional sense. He'll more so be repopulating the Saiyan race with them. But more on that later. For now, let's get into the story of this what if. Our story begins not too dissimilar from the original one, as Gohan would be taking a stroll around his local forest in front of his home. A ship would crash in front of him, outstepping a young boy. Kakarot, instead of being wistful and curious at the new domain he has entered, would instead be eager to learn and explore all of this planet's culture, and its women. Now, obviously here, Goku would have increased hormones, but alongside that, he would also have increased S-cells. Not only is he longing to indulge in beautiful women, but he also wants a good fight. So he would rush at Grandpa Gohan, looking to scratch that itch. But somehow, the Master, in the Turtle Hermit style, would be able to fight back. This is surprising, as Earthlings weren't typically supposed to be able to compare to the might of the Saiyans, but keep in mind, Goku is still relatively young at this point, so handling a child, yeah, Grandpa Gohan can do that. Realizing he probably won't be able to beat Gohan in a one-on-one fight, Goku would request to be taught by this legendary figure. He must be the strongest Earthling on Earth if this is even possible for him to contest with the almighty Saiyan race, and Gohan would laugh this off. He's a kid. He obviously doesn't understand that he isn't invincible. So Gohan would decide to teach him. He definitely shows promise, and it's worth a shot, and it could be pretty fun. It's not like Gohan has that much going on anyway. And from that day forward, Goku's training would begin. He would learn the Turtle Hermit style as well as increasing his overall power level by a decent amount. For the purposes of this story, we're going to say that Goku has a scouter, and can use it to actually scan his own power level in comparison to Gohan's. I don't believe we were ever given any real confirmation on Gohan's power level, but we'll say it's around 80. Only because he was able to fight against Goku post-Roshi training at Baba's palace, but was still killed by a Great Ape Goku, while the Ozaru only had a power level of around 100, seeing his base Goku's power level was 10 before transforming. Goku, being a Saiyan, would be able to reach this same power level of around 80 relatively quickly, seeing as he would continue training and want to reach the same level as this legendary figure of Earth. And then, after defeating Gohan, he would say he's going to go find other strong people to fight. And Gohan would actually send him in the direction of Mutan Roshi, the person who taught Grandpa Gohan. So, Goku's on his way. He would encounter Roshi on his island, and be surprised at the Turtle Hermit's strength. It's incredible. He's so strong. Although, Goku would still be able to find a way to catch up to him as well. This actually wouldn't be super difficult, seeing as Goku, post-Roshi's training, was actually able to fight somewhat on par with Jackie Chan, which, as most of us know, is just Master Roshi. So, Goku here would be around that same strength and be able to beat Roshi too. Now, being one of the strongest people on Earth, he would look for another way to get even more powerful. He would eventually meet Korin, after climbing up the Lookout's pole and talking to the Cat Master. After talking with Korin for a bit as well as training with him to get that Ultra Divine Water, well, Goku would get even stronger, although still not strong enough to satisfy him, so he would climb even further, which Korin would allow. And then meeting Kami, Goku's training would begin even sooner than ever. Kakarot here would have a power level of around 550, similar to what Goku had at the end of OG Dragon Ball. But Kakarot's only 7, well, as Goku was around 18 years old. This is pretty crazy, but makes sense seeing as Goku didn't know he was a Saiyan, and had a lot of other things than just training and fighting to do. Well, granted, not a lot of other things, but still, he went on adventures and journeys and had other exploits, things he was into other than just training and eating. But as we know with Vegeta, Saiyans were mostly just into those two things. Granted, Kakarot also here would be into women, but that's a hurdle that he can't exactly pursue right now. Goku's only about 7 years old right now, so yeah, it's not exactly prime dating season for him just yet. And I am going to continue to say Goku and Kakarot, as Kakarot would know his name is, well, Kakarot, but he would still decide to use Goku as sort of like a Earthling title. That's what the people on Earth will call him, while his name is still Kakarot. Now, after realizing that Kami's training won't do much for him, Goku would look for alternative ways to grow in strength. But Kami would suggest something different. Not King Kai's training, Goku would probably have to be dead for that, but instead, the Room of Spirit and Time. Not only would allow him to grow incredibly quickly in terms of power, but he could also stop that whole age problem. He could increase his overall age far quicker, although there is still the problem of the 3-year time limit, but Kami could probably remove that. So Goku is actually super hyped for it. He would go in, and even though it's incredibly difficult, keep in mind Goku tried to go into the room at the beginning of his training in the original. Here it's at the end of his training, so it's still difficult for him to be in there, but he would still try and persevere. And he would actually be able to, as this Goku doesn't really have much else to do aside from train, so why not just spend all of his time trying to master this whole Room of Spirit and Time thing? And after a while, he is actually able to adjust. The 10 times gravity isn't too much, as he was born on a planet with that much gravity, so to him, it's basically something he should already naturally be able to do. Even if he isn't at first, it does feel like something he should be able to. And with the harsh and adjusting climate, Goku would be able to adjust as well. After a while, the entire atmosphere of the room just seems natural, and Goku can train for as long and as hard as he wants. 16 years would pass, as Kami would find a way to adjust the time chamber to allow for more than just 3 years inside. If Dende could do it with much less experience, Kami could as well. 14, long on the inside, short on the outside, years would pass, and Goku would be at 20 years old, as well as incredibly powerful. But that 20-year-old marker is probably a bit more important, as it means Goku is now eligible to start his repopulation journey. If you are curious about how strong Goku would be here, let's say he has a power level of around 14 to 15,000. The only reason for this being that Goku is a low-class Saiyan, and most low-class Saiyans have a power level of around 2 to 3,000, as well as the fact that most of them rarely ever got above 10,000 despite the fact they were doing incredibly grueling training every single day by going out and conquering planets. Yeah, sure, Goku did some pretty life-threatening work inside of the Room of Spirit and Time, but I doubt it was as intense as most low-class Saiyans. So even though this does seem a bit low considering what Goku was able to achieve in the original, this is actually quite high for what Goku probably would achieve through any means of training that he has access to at the moment. The Room of Spirit and Time is a very effective tool, which is the only reason I gave him this incredible power anyway. Now, moving outside of the training aspect, let's talk about how Goku goes about actually finding mates or potential partners to help him repopulate. Goku would spend the next year looking around the planet for the most attractive as well as strong body-wise women. That way, he would be able to breed with them and create the best and most effective children. This might seem like a bit of an inhumane process, judging and selecting women and then breeding with them to create the most effective children, but nobody ever said repopulation would be easy or humane. Now, these women would actually agree to this and enjoy it, as they would be treated like goddesses, and hey, being the parent to the most powerful people on the planet doesn't exactly sound too bad. And for the goddess's part, well, Goku would probably be promoted to Guardian of Earth and wouldn't reject the position, so they kind of would be goddesses in a sense. They would be brought into the Room of Spirit and Time, where the quote-unquote repopulation process would commence, and then spend 9 months in there while they are pregnant. That way, the baby as well as the mother can properly adjust to harsh conditions like 10 times gravity or a strict climate. That way, not only the mother but also the child will be powerful the second the child is born. Every person I select to be a part of the women's side of this will be highballed or lowballed to around Goku's age. Android 18 and 21 would be the first up on the metaphorical chopping block, as I feel like they are two somewhat prominent figures as well as recognizable in the Dragon Ball universe, and I think it'd be pretty interesting to have those two be a part of this. 18 because she was the first person in the What If Goku Married series, and Android 21 because she could help modify the children as well as Goku using biotechnology to help make sure that they are the strongest they could possibly be from a biological standpoint. Next up would be Vidal's mother, or basically just Vidal. The reason I'm having it be Vidal's mother instead of Vidal herself is because I feel like having Goku marry who was basically his daughter-in-law would be kind of creepy, even if we were to change the age range a bit. So we're going to have it be Vidal's mother, that way it's a little less weird. Yes, technically this basically is just Goku's sister-in-law, but hey, Gohan does not exist yet, so that relationship isn't happening. Therefore, Vidal's mom, who's basically just Vidal, is fair game. Now, the moment you have all probably been dreading if you thought about it. Fortune teller Baba. Oh god. Okay, so like I said, I would be reverting all of their ages to somewhere around Goku, but considering how old Fortune Teller Baba is, that just doesn't work. So instead, we're going to say it's Fortune Teller Baba's great-great-great-granddaughter, who practices in magic as well, and therefore would be able to still repopulate, I'm using air quotes, with Goku, and then have a magical child, which would be incredibly useful to bolstering the Saiyan race. And our fifth and final woman Goku would be using to help repopulate his species would be Mrs. Briefs, and we're not changing her age at all, because here at the Irishman Incorporated we do believe in MILF supremacy. I am legally obligated to inform you that is not my joke, although I am not legally obligated to inform you of whose joke it is, so have fun with that. And after around a month, Goku has 3 children with each and every one of the 5 women, and Mr. Briefs, that he has brought into the time chamber. Now, with 15 kids by his side, he would have all of them go out and find people to mate with and then repopulate further. And once every child of his own has bred with another person, he would have each of his kids go into the Room of Spirit and Time with their spouse. That way, either the pregnant wife or pregnant self would be able to have the baby much quicker, as well as, like I said before, maintaining the 10 times gravity adjustment right away. And once the time has passed and every baby has popped out, Goku would gather the Dragon Balls, wishing on them to have each and every one of his descendants be full-blooded Saiyans, rather than half or quarter breeds, as well as the spouses. That way the number of Saiyans has increased drastically. You might say this is a bad decision because half-blooded Saiyans are superior to full-blooded Saiyans, at least in terms of potential and growth, but honestly I'd like to argue that by saying Android 21 would be able to study what gives hybrid Saiyans that same boost and now give it to each and every full-blooded Saiyan there, which is just every Saiyan there. Now, with every single Saiyan having this modified boost, as well as being given android or cybernetic upgrades from Android 21, who would have that kind of technology, not only because of her own intelligence, but also Dr. Briefs who would be there, well, the Saiyan army is incredibly powerful. Now, with a century of progress made in a matter of months, Goku would slow down a bit, deciding to focus on the individual power of each Saiyan rather than actually increasing the numbers. He would still definitely be increasing the numbers of his race, although that wouldn't be his main priority at the moment. He would be having Android 21 Dr. Briefs work tirelessly on actually creating enhanced cybernetic upgrades to make each Saiyan more powerful. And it works flawlessly, as the cybernetic upgrades that were given to 17 and 18 would basically be scrap metal in comparison to what Android 21 and Dr. Briefs would be able to make together. Working full time, they would make such powerful cybernetics that, well, really even Cell looked like a joke. Then you give that same upgrade to Saiyans who have been raised in the Room of Spirit and Time and trained tirelessly, well, we have a pretty unstoppable army with Kakarot at the helm. And this only becomes even more apparent when Goku learns how to access Super Saiyan. Kakarot would be sitting inside of the Room of Spirit and Time, just kind of standing there, taking everything in. He's looking at the vast openness of the room while pondering how far it really goes. Before then, his train of thought is broken by Kami bursting into the room, warning of King Piccolo's escape. He is a threat to the Earth that not even the Saiyans could probably combat, although Goku doesn't exactly believe this. But if there's a chance he can really get a worthy opponent, well then he is more than up to testing Kami's little theory. And after exiting the room, Kakarot would scan around the planet, before then locking onto an energy vaguely similar to Kami's. Goku would then teleport down there and be absolutely dumbfounded. This guy is weaker than his infant children are currently. Granted, Goku has taken lots of precautions to make sure even right after exiting the womb, his children and great-great-great-great-grandchildren are incredibly powerful, but still, King Piccolo is absolute dog fodder, and Kami made him out to be an actual threat. So disappointed, Goku would go to destroy Piccolo on the spot, but then he would notice something. Piccolo has already created multiple different underlings, all on his own, right after being let out of his imprisonment. This means that Piccolo is capable of actually creating children incredibly fast without any of that nasty birthing process. Instead, he's just able to spit up an egg and boom, baby. Goku would see this as absolutely revolutionary. Yeah, sure, Saiyans might never be able to actually do this, but he doesn't need them to be able to. Goku just needs little Namekian children that can be incredibly powerful from birth and train alongside his Saiyan descendants. So, having this little light bulb above his head, Goku would teleport back up to the lookout with Piccolo in tow. And yes, Goku would know some form of teleportation by this point, as, well, he is the Guardian of Earth. Even King Kai knew instant transmission, so maybe Goku is able to learn from him. The point is, Goku is able to teleport. Goku would then enter the Room of Spirit and Time, wherein Android 21 would be working on some experiments, also having been given eternal youth, meaning she can spend as much time in the chamber as she needs. Goku would ask her to learn from one of Piccolo's children everything that there is to know about Namekian anatomy, and then Android 21 would get right on that. As for Goku, he would break every bone in Piccolo's body. That way he knows how he fights, how he works, what makes him tick, as well as how effective Piccolo would be as training partners for each of his children. And by Piccolo, I mean Piccolos, as what the other children would be doing while Piccolo is getting the crap kicked out of him, and probably Tambourine is getting experimented on by Android 21, well, they'd be making children of their own. Yeah, sure, Drum and Cymbal might not seem like your typical Namekian, but that's because Toriyama didn't exactly know what Namekians were going to be yet. So, despite their obvious mutations, Cymbal and Drum would give birth to regular Namekian children, spitting out eggs, and once those eggs hatch, they would give birth to regular Namekians, who after 3 years would mature basically into adulthood and have children of their own. This would lead to Namekians being born by the hundreds very quickly inside the Room of Spirit and Time. After decades pass, we would have an entire Namekian army, which Android 21 would modify to give them unlimited potential, as well as insane regenerative abilities. But after some time passes, a Dragon Clan Namekian would be born, but not any regular Dragon Clan Namekian. No, a few of those would have already come about, but they would be groomed just like any other Warrior Clan Namekian. This one, instead, would be taught how to create the dragonballs, as well as being proficient in that art. Kami would teach him well, and after a while, the Guardian, or former Guardian of Earth, would be replaced yet again, but instead of as Guardian being replaced, instead as Keeper of the Dragon Balls. This new Namekian would be able to create a set of Dragon Balls even superior to the Namekian ones. And by Namekian ones, I mean the ones on planet Namek that were able to grant 3 wishes of basically unlimited power, as we've never seen Porunga actually fail to grant a wish. This isn't to say that this set would be as powerful as the Super Dragon Balls, but they would still be very, very strong, capable of granting really any wish that the Saiyans would ever want granted. It's not like they're going to be restoring universes anytime soon, so this set can basically do anything they would want. As the years pass, new generations of Saiyans would be born, with Namekians right there born alongside them. That way they have someone to train with their entire lives. As well as their fellow Saiyan comrades, they also have Namekians, who have their own myriad of techniques that would be learned and created over these years. Now, the Realm of Spirit and Time would be more or less retired after every human on Earth would be replaced with a Saiyan. Yes, this would mean basically genocide over the human race, although all the powerful ones would be kept alive and transformed into Saiyan warriors themselves. This might seem a bit bleak, but I never said this story was going to be a necessarily happy one. Although most of the human race is basically gone, there would still be an absolutely thriving civilization on Earth. Although, even though the Room of Spirit and Time is retired for the time being, there would still be a very high population of Saiyans from when it was being used. So, now they do need a bigger planet to stay on, that way it can actually occupy every Saiyan left alive. And by every Saiyan left alive, I mean literal billions. So Goku, as well as being the Guardian of Earth, would use the Dragon Balls, using his magical powers as well as the magical orbs to reshape the Earth into an even bigger planet, as well as giving it 10 times gravity. That way, every Saiyan born on the planet would be immediately used to the higher gravity, as well as Android 21, Bulma, and Dr. Briefs, all using their high IQs to build new and advanced tech, now even surpassing the likes of the Frieza Force in scientific advancement. Now, don't think that this is still going to just be Planet Vegeta 2.0, although it kind of is, being a monarchy and having Goku or Kakarot as the head of the planet, as well as ruler over all the Saiyans. There would still be a lot more than just fighting the Saiyans would partake in. Yes, the large majority would focus on increasing their strength. In fact, basically every Saiyan would still have a steady work, life, and training balance, but there would still be work and life as a part of most of these Saiyans', well, lives. Some would become doctors, teachers, lawyers. Everyone would play a role in society as well as keeping up with their training and fighting. Even though there would still be people like Gohan who wouldn't even enjoy fighting all that much. We saw from what happened to Vegeta after the Cell Games that some Saiyans actually do just lose their touch for battle, choosing to rather just pursue other paths. Granted, Vegeta in that was mostly because of depression and really didn't want to do much of anything, but it does go to show that Saiyans can lose their thirst for battle and pursue other means of living. Although we still are mostly in the early years of actually forming a civilization, so the majority of them are really just getting used to their roles as new people. Keep in mind, most of them had most of their childhood spent inside of the Room of Spirit and Time, and didn't know much about actually forming a civilization. So it'd be hard, but they would still be on the right path to doing that. Although, one day something pretty interesting would happen. Raditz would arrive on the planet. A spaceship would be seen soaring through the sky, heading to the lookout, where Goku is. That's pretty strange. Maybe this is something that Master Kakarot, as everyone would know him, is trying out. Some new drone technology. That's pretty cool. It looks a bit different from what most of their tech looks like, but it might just be something new he's trying out. Now, the people that thought this were half right. As Raditz had entered Earth's orbit, Goku had pulled the spaceship towards the lookout, wondering who this newcomer to the planet was. Also being eager to learn more about space. It was sort of a frontier they hadn't exactly got to yet. They were focused on rebuilding the Earth rather than actually exploring different planets. Although, they were definitely set on doing that at some point. Once Raditz gets out of his space pod, he would be met by Gohan, the first of kin from Goku, the firstborn Saiyan child. But Kakarot would still have named him after Gohan because he respected the first human he ever met on Earth. The Saiyan warrior would suggest for Raditz to follow him. Kakarot has been waiting some time to reunite with his brother. And so, as Raditz follows, Gohan would lead him into a room on the lookout, where Goku would be sitting on a throne, guarded by his most elite Saiyan warriors, with his closest female companions by his side. Kakarot would motion for his brother to come closer, be by his side once again, and then, as Raditz does, Goku would whisper in his brother's ear,
"The Saiyans are back, baby, let's go!"
When you have an army of Super Saiyans and a few elite soldiers who can even go further beyond, what is there really to strive for? Well, as Vin Diesel once said, family is everything. And this quote reigns true for Goku. Not because he knows the quote and thinks it's cool, but rather because family is the thing that was driving him this entire time. Not just his close connected family, as in Bardock, Gine, Raditz, all of them, but instead, his Saiyan race. Not because they were cool or strong or the best, but rather because they were his. He had this territorial urge to bring them back, to reclaim his glory. But even with an army far superior to anything the universe has ever seen, he still wanted more. Not more troops, more scouts, more warriors, more people bolstering the number of his race. He wanted his family. He wanted his mother, his father, his brother. He wanted them back, but he can't have that. At least, not yet. It was entirely possible to use the dragonballz and revive them that way, but Saiyans were more complicated than that. It wouldn't just be as simple as wishing them back and having them back in his lives. Instead, it would show the entire planet that he was weak enough to have feelings of compassion towards loved ones. Ew, just yuck. so he couldn't do that. He couldn't wish them back. He really couldn't show that he cared about them that much. That's un-Saiyan-like, and frankly just disgusting in his eyes. So he was overjoyed when Raditz entered his life again, but not through a means in which he had to forcibly acquire it. But now with Raditz back in the picture, this gives Goku not only his brother back, but also leeway to get the rest of his family back to him. All he has to do is pretend that Raditz is the touchy-feely one who wants mommy and daddy back to him. So, now doing just that, Goku would use the Dragon Balls and revive his mother and his father, bringing them to the lookout. And before anybody says anything, no, there is not a rule about the Earth Dragon Balls not being able to revive people that have been dead longer than a year. That was referring to large groups. Bardock and Guinea are not a large group, rather two singular people, so they can be brought back. Now, how do these three Saiyans actually adapt to the new environment they were just shoved into? Well, pretty great, as they would be treated like kings and queen. It would be pretty awesome. Raditz would be trained by Kakarot, and Bardock doesn't really need it. Knowing him, he was probably training his butt off in the afterlife to lay one into Frieza, and if that all went well for him, he should be able to train himself. And for Guinea, well, her life doesn't really revolve around training and getting stronger, and luckily for her, neither do the lives of most of the people on planet Kakarot. Well, maybe not most of them, probably only like 15-16%, but that's still a lot when you consider we're talking about literal billions. So Guinea is really able to fit in with these type of people, and she's loving it. There are other things to do than just fight and get stronger. Instead, she can pursue other things. She doesn't have to be a part of an army. She could be a chef or an artist, a director working on the newest movie, a painter working on their newest masterpiece. Any opportunity she wants to pursue, she can. And life is going great for everyone on the planet. There'd be no war because it would be shut down like that. There would be no crime or poverty because, quite frankly, as a civilization, they would have just grown past that. If there's not enough land to account for the massive population, all they have to do is get the Dragon Balls and wish for more space on the planet. So, really, everything is going great in the Saiyan Empire. Although, Bardock brings up a proposition to his son. They could go after Frieza. This idea would be on his mind ever since he was first revived. Hell, it was probably there ever since he was first killed, but right now, it becomes most apparent. Bardock would see the power that Goku alone has acquired, as well as what he has taught to his troops. He has an entire army of literal billions behind him, so why not use it to take out Frieza? Bardock would have first brought the idea up to his son in his throne room. As Kakarot was sitting down next to Android 21 in the throne, Bardock would have said that maybe they should take out Frieza. He's the biggest threat the Saiyans have. And Goku would laugh this off, saying that the Saiyans have no threat. They are far superior to anything that Space Lizard could do. Although Android 21 isn't too sure. Before, Goku had told her himself that Frieza was the one person he actually feared. Although, when she brings this up, Kakarot would immediately snap back, saying he isn't afraid of anyone. The king fears none and is respected by all. But Bardock knows his kids. They want to act all big and bad, but death is the thing they fear most. It was true with Raditz, and if it's even a little true with Kakarot, then he knows just a way to egg him on. So, Bardock would say that if he's too scared, then Daddy can take care of the monster for him. But this was the last straw. Kakarot would snap, getting enraged, lightning sparking around his normal Super Saiyan aura. He would demand Android 21 work on a ship that would be able to reach Frieza before the week is over. And she does just that. It wouldn't take long. She is probably the most brilliant mind the universe has ever seen by this point, spending extensively long in the Room of Spirit and Time, fine-tuning her craft. The ship would be capable of getting to Frieza's current location, something they would know thanks to Raditz's scouter, in a matter of days, possibly even sooner, if he doesn't want to do any training on the trip. Then, once the ship is fully prepared, Goku would board it alone, choosing not to take anyone else with him. He wants the honor of putting Frieza's head on a spike himself. But there's still something Goku hadn't prepared for. Frieza preparing for him. If the Emperor had any knowledge that there was a planet out there with people that came in the billions, even stronger than him, in fact several hundred times stronger than him, he's going to want to do something about that. And what better to do than get stronger than every single one of those people combined. Hell, it wouldn't even be that hard. All he has to do is a few months of meager training, and then he's more powerful than anything this planet Kakarot could even comprehend. And so he would do just that. For the next 6 months, Frieza as well as the Ginyu Force would be training together intensively, getting stronger day by day until everything is said and done. Each member of the Ginyu Force has power levels in the billions, a stark contrast from where they were before. And this wouldn't even be a footnote in comparison to the power that is Frieza. He would be so astronomically strong, nobody else could even compare in his forces, not even the newly improved Ginyu Force. Although he isn't quite up to par with his Resurrection F level self in terms of strength. He's still comparable to where he was in Resurrection F, just not quite at the same level yet. Months would pass from when his training was complete and his golden form is mastered, although still not as powerful as it was in Resurrection F, just because I don't think he would reach those same levels, although still comparable. All of this to say that Frieza is incredibly powerful, but how does he match up against the millennia of training that Goku has had inside of the Room of Spirit and Time? Well, only time will tell. But thankfully we don't have to wait long, as Goku is currently at Frieza's doorstep.
So, you were able to get past the Ginyu Force. Oh, how quite impressive, monkey.
You must be referring to your little misfit minions. Yeah, well, I took all 5 of them out. They're, how do we say, incomposed. But I didn't come here for them. I came here for you, Frieza.
Oh, don't worry. You're going to be getting exactly what you deserve. But before we start, I feel obligated to tell you, I've been keeping track of all of your recent activities, and I just adore that Super Saiyan form of yours. I actually have something quite similar. I know it's a bit gauche, but let's keep this simple. How about Golden Frieza?
If simplicity is what we're going for, then let's go with Super Saiyan 3.
Oh my, monkey. You've managed to make your hair grow. Impressive. Let's see how your gold stacks up against mine.
And as the two charge at one another, their auras would flare even brighter than before. Their powers increase the more the fight goes on, each punch thrown, sending ripples throughout the galaxy. Their power is incredible, although Frieza is still largely outclassing Goku. Even with a millennia of training, Super Saiyan 3 just isn't cutting it. He isn't strong enough to contest with this absolute monster that is the Emperor of the Universe. Frieza would begin to easily pummel down Goku, his power waning because of the extent of damage Frieza would be dealing onto him. He's already mastered Super Saiyan 3, but what he hasn't quite mastered is his immortality. He's never really been put in a life or death situation yet. So, I guess this is a learning experience. How does his immortality really chalk up against power so extreme? Well, it actually ends up pushing him, as Frieza would send a barrage of death beams towards him, entering his body, piercing through it. He would begin to fall to the ground. And then, as a brilliant white light eclipses him, he would rise back up, although this time with a look of pure rage on his face. Now, I'm not going to say every single death requires a light show, but for the first one, this is quite special. Goku's hair would begin to rise into the air, as then his eyes turn white, his hair switching from a gold to an emerald green, and then he would look at Frieza.
You're going to pay for that.
Frieza would try and commence in some playful banter, although Goku isn't having any of it. He would charge at Frieza with a fist prepared, before then slamming it into Frieza's gut before he has a chance to counter or even react. Then Goku would remove his hand before then using it to spin around and slap Frieza to the ground. What are you? Super Saiyan 3 with green hair dye?
I'm the legend people fear for all eternity.
Kakarot would then charge a small ball of energy in his hand, throwing it down onto Frieza's chest, still holding his hand out.
You are a rumor that will fade with time. I am eternal!
Frieza is dead, but Kakarot isn't much better. He's out in nowhere space, and even with his immortality, he cannot breathe in space, therefore meaning that he's kind of just stuck there. He can't fly away, at least not fast enough, because he can't breathe. His life force is low, and even though his immortality keeps reviving him, he can't make any actual progress in getting to anywhere that has an even somewhat breathable atmosphere. Currently, Goku is practically stuck in stasis, and nobody can get to him because there's no way of finding where he is. The blast that he used to destroy the planet Frieza was on sent him spiraling out into a part of space that nobody really knows where is. It's basically nowhere, and there's nobody there to try and help him, and nobody can be sent to go and rescue him because his ki just isn't large enough to actually pick up on any radars because of how fast his life force drains the second he is revived. Not to mention the cold and deadly atmosphere that is the vacuum of space would mean that Kakarot is most likely frozen there. Even if he is revived over and over and over again, he can't move and probably can't even think because he is frozen, basically in stasis. By this time, Goku really doesn't even benefit from Zenkais. Not to mention, immortality possibly just removes those entirely. So he's just stuck there, unable to move, unable to think. He's as good as dead, but honestly even worse, because at least if he was dead, he could train. But here, he's not really anything. He's just stuck. And worst of all, everyone on planet Kakarot knows what's going on. Android 21 would have built a camera into the ship and would have seen everything that happened with Frieza as well as Goku. So she knows Kakarot's probably not coming home anytime soon. They could try and use the Dragon Balls to bring him back, but they were already used recently to revive Bardock and Guinea. Yeah, sure, that might have been a few months ago, if that, but it doesn't really matter. By the time they recharge, they're not going to be able to bring Goku back in the way he was because his mind would have already crippled from all of the excruciating pain. Being brought back just to die again and again and again thanks to his immortality would eventually cause his mind to just turn off. What's the point of continuing to think if all you can think is the pain that's coursing through your body every second that you are alive, which would last forever? So everyone just has to accept that their leader's gone. But there's one person who would take this worse than anybody else. Android 21. She had spent the most time by Goku's side. She had been the one to always be there for him. She was the one person who you might actually consider to be Goku's actual love interest in this story. Yeah, sure, he marries everybody, he gets with everybody. That's the staple of the what if. But at the end of the day, Android 21 was the person closest to Goku. Even his father, his mother, and his brother don't really care as much as her because they were Saiyans. They didn't have the same connection. Maybe Gine would care, but still, Android 21 is absolutely broken by this. She spent millennia by his side, and now he's gone for good. Well, the first thing they all need to do is find out who would be the new Guardian of Earth. That's an official title. It's important, and somebody needs to be the Guardian. So who will it be? Well, I could say Gohan, and he would probably be eager to actually take up the role, as he is the firstborn son and the person who actually probably cares the most about the Saiyan Empire. Remember, this is really only Gohan in name. But I'd rather not have the role go to him. He would be the general of the army, and Android 21 would be the Guardian of Earth. She would be the one to take it over, while Gohan would still be the commander and leader of the Saiyan forces. Although this role is going to be a lot more important as time goes on. Android 21 deciding that the way to protect the Earth the best is to make sure there's no other competition in the universe would send Saiyan troops in squads to go take over other planets. Like the Saiyans originally did, they are now going to be planet conquerors once more. Bardock likes this. It's sort of like a getting back to their roots sort of thing. Raditz would choose to be one of the people who stays on Earth to protect it himself, rather than actually going out and conquering more planets. It just doesn't really suit him anymore. He already did that. That was what his life was before. He'd rather actually protect something rather than conquer and kill. He likes this life, and he's getting used to it, so he'll stay with this role for a while. While all of the fighting Saiyans would be out partaking in intergalactic warfare, Android 21 would be working with the smartest minds on planet Kakarot to create something different, something new, something perfect. They would be working to create Cell, and they're able to do it in record time. Instead of taking 17 years, it would only take about 2 months, and Cell is complete, made with the DNA of every Saiyan that has ever been brought into this universe, well, at least all of the ones that Kakarot is the progenitor of, as well as DNA from all of the races they could track in the observable universe. This Cell is incredibly powerful, with the DNA of Frieza, King Cold, all of the Saiyans from planet Kakarot, the Yardrats, the Namekians. Every species of even minimal value would be put into Cell, although there is one thing Cell doesn't have: a mind, as it was not built to have a mind, consciousness of its own. They weren't building a bio-android, but instead, they were building a body. A new body for Android 21. That way she could assert the same dominance and rule over all of the Saiyans that Kakarot had. In truth, she had never really trained all that much. Most of her time was spent working on cybernetic enhancements for the army or for Kakarot himself, working on developing technology as well as basically just giving Kakarot everything he so desired. She really didn't spend a whole lot of time focusing on her physical strength, so this would make up for that. And now as she slips into her new body, She feels unstoppable. She is confident that nobody would stand in her way of spreading the Empire over the entire cosmos. The entire universe would be under her rule, just like Kakarot would have wanted. And as more time passes, Android 21 would further accumulate this body to be more like her. Yes, this form was incredible. It was genetically superior to anything else in the universe, but it was just a bit too monstrous for her liking, so she would change how it looks just a bit, and now it feels more comfortable for her, but still has all of the same power. After a few years, people would try and make attempts on her life, try and take over the Empire, but really it's just funny to watch them try more than anything. Nobody can even compare to the might of the true ruler of the universe, Android 21. But eventually, something happens that kind of breaks the cycle. Something that stands out amongst the regular scum of the universe trying to take her throne. It was a Saiyan duo. Two people who had heard of Kakarot's exploits and had come to see the new Saiyan Empire itself. They were Saiyans and they were powerful, so Android 21 decides to give them some time, see exactly what they're capable of, and as the two both transform into Super Saiyan, she'd be impressed. Their base power was minuscule at best, and quite frankly, Super Saiyan is nothing to anyone on the planet anymore. So these two weren't anything special, but the fact that they aren't from the Empire and aren't one of Kakarot's descendants does make them pretty unique. So Android 21 would put them under Raditz's watch and have him train them up to be at least a somewhat acceptable level. This is insulting, but the two kind of just have to go with it. Everyone is far beyond their current level of strength. This is of course Nappa and Vegeta, and Raditz is absolutely loving the fact that he is now their superior. Oh, how the turns have tabled. But now we cut to nowhere space, where Android 21 is being proven wrong. It's not like there are people out there who are superior to her in terms of strength, but that's not what I mean. Kakarot is still alive. But I don't just mean that his healing factor, which is what I meant by immortality, sorry if I confused anybody, is keeping him alive, but instead, he is still very conscious, and very, very upset. The fact that he is stuck in space, unable to move more than a few inches before he dies once again and has to be brought back by his healing factor, enrages him to a point where his aura as well as his rage is flaring hotter than any sun that has ever existed prior. But then, after years of being stuck in this torture, this absolute hellscape, it would all come to a climax. His power, his fury, it would all build up to a point where he would break his limits once again, forcibly entering a new power. And as this power surges around him and he screams louder than anyone has ever screamed, the universe would begin to break, reality crumbling as he would then somehow end up somewhere else, a different planet, somewhat familiar but still so very different. As Goku is approached by two friendly Namekians, he will get an idea. If these are actually Namekians like they appear to be, then they have Dragon Balls. And so, he would ask very kindly, almost seeming like a stranded and lost soul, to be brought to the Namekian Elder, somebody who would be able to bestow upon him the Dragon Balls. He needs to get home as he has been away from his loving wife for just far too long. Of course, this is all a ploy. He just wants to get back to Earth so he can continue ruling over his empire and expanding to the rest of the universe, something he did want to do. Although the Namekians buy into this and would decide to bring them to someone who would basically just be Walmart brand guru, just like how all of these Namekians are Walmart brand Namekians. And so he would be given the Dragon Balls as the Elder would also believe his story, not having the same mind-reading powers as our friendly neighborhood guru. And now Goku would prepare to wish to be brought back to Earth, but then he would have another idea. Something that sounds even funner than going back to his home. he would ask to be brought to the strongest person in this universe, having deduced that he's probably in a different dimension than the one he's familiar with. And then the Walmart brand Purunga would agree, teleporting him to the god of destruction. Goku would stare down the newly awakened god of destruction. Champa is furious and Goku is excited. This guy seems strong. A title like Destroyer God isn't given to somebody who's necessarily weak. But then again, Goku has encountered his fair share of people who have some pretty intimidating names but rather lackluster power. Still, Goku has a feeling about this guy. He is incredibly powerful. Goku can't sense his strength, but he can definitely tell he is strong.
What business do you have on my planet interrupting my nap, you monkey? You silly, silly boy, I'm going to destroy you.
What was that? Boy, I've lived longer than you could even imagine.
I haven't exactly been keeping track or anything, but if I had to put a number on my age, I'd probably say 75 million or so. But you can top that, right, monkey?
You're right. You do have me beat. I've only been around for 2 million. But for the last few, I have spent it in nothing but tantalizing, agonizing torture, isolation and pain greater than you could even fathom. So I'm quite peeved.
And you think that gives you the right to disturb a god?
I don't know. I've never really been impressed by any gods. But it does mean I am eager for a challenge. And unless you're too scared, you seem like just that.
You want to fight? No. Hakai!
Oh, that almost tickled. Want to try again?
How are you this strong? 2 million years of training could never get someone this powerful. Vados, explain!
Vados would explain that it doesn't make that much sense. A mortal shouldn't really be capable of bursting into the realm of gods without divine intervention. Even after 2 million years, that power should still be unachievable. A Saiyan is able to break their limits as much as they want, but the power of a god is, well, on an entirely different plane. So, how is he able to do it? Well, Goku would explain that, yeah, 2 million years definitely did push him, and he did get incredibly powerful, but he was still nowhere near the level of a Destroyer God. Yeah, sure, Super Saiyan 3 was strong, he was able to fight against Golden Frieza, which, of course, is an incredible feat, one we've really only seen by the likes of Super Saiyan Blue or above characters. So, yeah, he did sort of bridge that God Key gap, but was still not as strong as a God of Destruction. But then, he got legendary Super Saiyan 3, and made Frieza look like a joke even in his golden form. But it didn't stop there, as for several years, he was stuck in endless torment, constantly being brought back from the brink of death thanks to his regeneration. He also got a ton of Zenkais, and through all of this power gaining, all of his rage building, it all erupted in the new glorious form the angel and gods see before them, legendary Super Saiyan 4, which, well, it's just so far beyond Champa, it's hilarious. And although that clears up most of everything, at least with how he got so strong, there is still one thing that's left unexplained. Why he's even here? And then Goku would elaborate. He came here so that he could fight the strongest person in the universe. Although, after Champa's lackluster demonstration of his strength, Kakarot doesn't think that's him, and Purunga didn't just bring Goku to himself, so the strongest person in the universe has to be here. And then, Goku would lift up his hand and replicate the move Champa attempted to use on him.
What was that thing you were saying earlier, kitty cat?
Hakai!
Oh yeah, that's it. 75 million years down the drain. Goodbye, puny god. Hakai!
Although you might expect Vados to be somewhat distraught by this, I honestly don't think she would be. Her reaction could probably be summed up as, "Oh no, Champa, why would you do this? I am so very sad right now." Or at least, that's how I see it. She didn't really care all that much when he died in the universe survival arc, so she probably wouldn't care all that much here.
So, you're the strongest in the universe.
Why, yes, I am. Angels are typically supposed to be the strongest in their universes, as is the same for me.
Nice.
Oh, well, I do not like the way you said that. I guess we should probably promote you to God of Destruction now. You probably want that title.
Oh no, I am still definitely becoming the god of destruction. But there's something else I want, even more than that. I want you.
I'm not saying no, but I probably shouldn't say yes.
10 hours later.
Wait, so you guys don't, like, get pregnant or anything? You just do it, and then a child pops out?
I told you, angels aren't like anything you're used to.
I thought you meant it'd be funner, but this is very practical. You said there were only about 12 of you left. How about we make that number a bit bigger? I know just the place, too.
Back on Earth, Android 21 would be enjoying her day, playing some Nintendo Switch, maybe some Mario Maker, or maybe even Legend of Zelda. Either way, she's having a jolly good time when suddenly it's interrupted by a face she thought she'd never see again. That of Kakarot, as well as some random woman she is barely even familiar with. She doesn't know who this is, but she is insulted and enraged. She thought she lost him, and now he's back with some random nobody? Yeah, sure, she knew in the past he had a ton of different romances, but she was the only person that Kakarot ever gave eternal youth to as well. She thought she was special, but nope! Kakarot just doesn't care. He walks right past her, doesn't even say a single word to her, and walks into the time chamber with Vados. This will not stand. Android 21 would summon all of the mightiest Saiyan warriors to Earth immediately. They are going to war. Although inside of the room of Spirit and Time, Kakarot doesn't really understand that anything has changed with Android 21. Yeah, sure, she has a new hairdo and some new clothes, but that doesn't change anything, really. He still thinks that she's the same tool for sex and entertainment that she was to him before. Remember, in this what if, Kakarot's a bastard. He's not a good person, and Android 21 basically just was his slave, doing whatever he said and giving him whatever he wanted. She wasn't really anything more to him but a tool and a fun little toy. With no real goal in mind, Goku would focus on just getting stronger, and Vados would teach him Ultra Instinct. And after he learns this and puts it together with his legendary Super Saiyan 4 form, he's actually comparable to Vados, which is crazy, but she would say that she can't actually go all out against Goku, even in training, because going all out against a mortal is directly against Angel Code, something instilled by her father. And this gets Goku to inquire who exactly her father is, and Vados would explain everything about the Grand Minister, how the Grand Priest is the strongest person in the universes. Well, except for maybe Zeno. And this is enough to incentivize Kakarot to continue training until he is confident he could beat even this Grand Minister person that Vados has explained. Although, just in case he's not up to par after his training, he might as well have an army behind him. So, after a few more years inside of the room, he would exit and prepare to retake his army. Well, more so just continue commanding, but he does assume that somebody actually took his place, so he'll just kindly step back into his role. Although he only gave them a day, keep in mind he had modified the room that way multiple years could fit inside of just one day, that's how he got to 2 million years old.
He's surprised to see that Android 21 actually gathered the entire army here for him. What a nice and considerate person she is. She did what he wanted without him even having to ask. That's crazy. But then he realizes, oh, this is an uprising. He would kindly ask for whoever started this little uproar to step forward.
Come on, take credit. You gave yourself a death sentence. You might as well admit it.
Android 21 would then make herself known, saying that she is the person that did this. He can either ease into retirement or face a slow and painful death. It's his choice, really. Goku would sigh before then appearing in front of Android 21 in his perfected Ultra Instinct state. He would ask Bulma, who was still alive and on the lookout, if she was able to continue Android 21's research without her. Sheepishly, Bulma would say yes, but wasn't sure why he was asking that. Before then, he promptly erased Android 21 from existence with merely a glance. His power was on an entirely different level than anything that had previously been seen on planet Kakarot, and he wanted to make that apparent. If anybody tried to stand against him, it would not end well for them. And then Goku would use the Dragon Balls to erase everyone's memory of Android 21. That way nobody really gets the idea of a revolt. Although there was still one thing she was right about. War is on the horizon.
Kakarot would have Vados replace Gohan as the general of his army. He would realize that Gohan was the one commanding the army under Android 21, and he was the person that was actually allowing the coup d'etat to occur. He had some sort of allegiance to his mother. How cute. But still, that's not okay, and therefore he needs to be replaced. Yeah, sure, he doesn't remember Android 21 anymore, but still, he did show disloyalty towards Kakarot, and that needs to be punished. So he would be replaced with Vados. Vados, who was going to be ahead of the army anyway, as she would be the person training them and teaching them how to utilize God Ki, as well as Ultra Instinct. And even though this is all well and good, Kakarot has some other things he needs to attend to. He would head over to Bulma and ask her to create something for him, a device which would allow him to absorb other people's energy. That way he's not only getting stronger in battle through, well, fighting and getting stronger through battle, but also absorbing the other person's energy. Imagine how strong he'd be if at the end of a fight he could just absorb that person's power. Needless to say, this is a very useful tool, and however long it takes Bulma to actually create this, it would be worth the wait. And now, with this as a part of his being, he would head off-planet. In fact, he would even head to the outskirts of the universe, wherein he would find the Universe 7 Destroyer, someone that Vados would have told him about. His name was Beerus. She would have warned that he was the strongest destroyer god and may give him some trouble, although considering he's able to go toe-to-toe with angels, well, Beerus might not really be that much of a challenge. Once arriving on the Universe 7 Destroyer God's planet, he would be greeted by Whis, who would ask what his business here is. Goku would simply say that he's a friend of Vados, and this would get Whis intrigued, wondering if he's a Saiyan from Universe 6, although he would say that he isn't and he didn't know there were Saiyans in Universe 6. That's an interesting thing to keep in mind for later. Although he's not exactly here for Whis. Instead, he's here for Beerus. Then, understanding that if this guy is a friend of his sister, then he is probably a somewhat important person, and therefore, well, he deserves Beerus' attention at the moment, even if it means waking him up. So, Whis would set off Beerus' alarm, and the cat god would be woken up, although a bit abruptly. He'd be upset and rather cranky, but seeing as Whis was the one to do it, he has to have some sort of a good reason. And Whis would then introduce Beerus to Kakarot, who has a devilish grin on his face. Kakarot would tell Beerus that he is now the god of destruction of Universe 6, the person who replaced Champa. Well, replace is a rather soft word. He erased him from existence.
Still groggy and rather sleepy, Beerus would just say in response,
It was bound to happen eventually. If that's all, I'm going back to sleep. Have a nice day, new destroyer.
Did you hear me? I murdered your brother. In cold blood. It was pretty brutal.
Yeah, he probably deserved it. He was kind of a prick. Whis, fetch my softest pillow.
Yeah, okay, I'm not dealing with you anymore. You're no fun.
Okay.
and as Beerus is being erased, every last drop of his energy would be being taken in by Goku. Every last bit of energy Beerus has ever collected would be being taken into Kakarot's very being, while his life force is being erased entirely. Whis is quite shocked. Although he did still have more connection to Beerus than any angel really had to their destroyer, Whis isn't entirely emotional at this. It was bound to happen eventually. Just like how Beerus felt about Champa, Whis felt about Beerus. He was arrogant, rash, and made a lot of enemies without caring what the consequences of his actions might be. So, really, Beerus' death was more so a means to an end rather than anything that was shocking or unexpected. Although, even he has to admit it did catch him off guard for a moment there. Kakarot would then become the god of destruction for Universe 7, just like he did for Universe 6. Not only having the destroyer powers for one universe, but now two. Although a problem does stem from the fact that, even though Kakarot is incredibly powerful, the Supreme Kai that his life are linked to, well, they are not. So, Kakarot would return to Earth, using the Dragon Balls that have been modified thanks to having a stronger guardian, as well as a machine that would enhance the Dragon Ball's overall power, to then give immortality to both of the Supreme Kai that his lives are linked to. And by immortality, I do mean immortality. Not eternal youth or an insane healing factor, just straight up becoming immortal. That way nobody can go after the Supreme Kai to kill Kakarot. What's there for our favorite Saiyan King to do now? Well, kill the other gods of destruction and take their power as well. And he'd be able to do it with relative ease. Being post-angel level, as well as having just absorbed the strongest of the destroyers, he'd be able to take out any of the other gods and possibly angels that he would choose to. Although he would still continue to keep the angels on his side and bolster his own forces with them, the other gods are rather unnecessary and can instead be absorbed into his very being. The only person who I really see giving him even a little trouble would be Universe 11, seeing as Toppo is training under Belmod, who was at least somewhat comparable to Beerus. And if Toppo and Belmod were to team up, and maybe even Jiren if he's there, that might be a little bit of an annoyance. But still, Kakarot would persevere, and honestly, those two would just be a nice extra little snack. Now, with being the god of destruction for every universe, all of his Supreme Kais being immortal, and him basically being unstoppable, what's there left for him to do now? Other than get stronger and prepare for the day to come where he challenges the Grand Priest. Well, he would see there are different timelines, different realities where different events take place. Although it seems as if certain plot points happen in each and every one of these timelines. Certain sagas, certain events. These different realities are similar to his own but different in so many ways. And as Kakarot picks up the time ring and looks into the reality that he would be entering, he sees one in which he only married one person. One in which he was living a happy life with only a few kids. Not the army he has now. Not the planet of literal billions of his own descendants. Just Gohan and Goten. This is... well, it's strange. Kakarot debates if this version of himself is actually living a better life. Yeah, sure, he doesn't have an empire or this huge big control over the universe. He isn't even a god of destruction, let alone 12. But his life seems
more fulfilling. This version of himself, he seems happier. Nah, it doesn't matter. He'll just go there, conquer the entire multiverse, take over every life form there, absorb their energy, and be powerful enough to defeat the Grand Priest. It doesn't matter if there are people who are living genuinely happy lives. He doesn't care. Remember, Kakarot, not a good person.
I wonder, what if I entered this world? This is going to be marvelous.